In this tutorial, we will be demonstrating how easy it is to implement global hotkeys within your virtual desktop environment using the VDI ToolKit. We will also look at some of the alternatives and their associated pitfalls. Lastly, we will demonstrate how the VDI ToolKit overcomes those pitfalls. What can we use global hotkeys for? With the VDI ToolKit, we can use global hotkeys for various reasons. We can disconnect a session with a global hotkey, making it easier for a user to quickly disconnect from their virtual desktop session. We can also use them to log off the session. This can come in handy when IT departments are normally troubleshooting with an end user over the phone. They may ask the user to log off their session and log back in. Many times users do not understand the difference between disconnecting and logging off a session and may inadvertently disconnect instead of log off the session, which can lead to more time when troubleshooting an issue. By assigning a hotkey, you can tell the user to press that key to ensure they logged off and didn't just disconnect the session. Global hotkeys can also be used to trigger a privacy screen for the end user, allowing them to hide their desktop if someone interrupts them while working on something sensitive. Global hotkeys can also be used to run applications or scripts. And lastly, they can be used to take a TroubleSnap. TroubleSnaps are not covered in this tutorial, so please watch the tutorial on TroubleSnaps to acquire more information on those. So what are problems with other solutions? First, it usually has to be set globally and cannot be set dynamically based off of the virtual desktop session information. Because of this, there could arise an issue where the global hotkey could have a negative impact in another application running. For example, let's say we create a global hotkey to disconnect a virtual desktop session using the F8 key. Now let's say a handful of users in our organization use an application that requires the F8 key. This could obviously cause some issues. Let's talk about why using the VDI ToolKit is superior. First, it uses a robust rules engine that allows global hotkeys based off of any virtual desktop session variable. This rules engine allows global hotkeys to be based off of any session criteria you want, like user, virtual desktop hostname, or client, just to name a few. Due to this, you can easily create global hotkeys ensuring they do not interfere with another application. Up next, we will demonstrate implementing global hotkeys using the VDI ToolKit. Okay, let's get started. So to get started, what we'll need to do is open up the management console and create some global hotkey rules. So I have the management console running on a virtual desktop, and we'll go ahead and open that. Once that's open, I'll go ahead and expand. Okay, and what we'll need to do first is we'll need to navigate to rules, rule items, and then hotkey. And here we'll go ahead and add our hotkeys. As we can see, we have none currently. And we'll do that by giving it a name, a description, picking the hotkey, and what the actual hotkey action is. So we'll go ahead and we'll give it a name. Just a note, I like to put the key in the name to make it easy to search later on. So first one we'll set up is the privacy screen. We'll press the F6 key here. And we will choose the privacy screen, enable privacy screen. Please note we have all these options, and we're going to perform all of these except the take TroubleSnap. For the take TroubleSnap, please watch the video tutorial on TroubleSnaps. We'll go ahead and hit add, and we'll go ahead and add the rest of ours. Next, we're going to do the F7 key for logging off the session. We'll hit add. Next, we're going to do F8 key to disconnect the session. We'll hit add. I'm going to go ahead and add another one to disconnect the session to demonstrate later how to override that. So we'll go ahead and add that. Once done, we'll go ahead and hit add, and we can hit search and see our global hotkeys have been created. Now what we need to do is I want to add one to actually run an application as well, but there's another step that we have to do first. So we'll navigate to rules, rule items, and then app automation. And here we'll see we have none, and we'll go ahead and add one. I'm just going to use Notepad for this example, but you can run any application or script from here. We choose the application type. Here we're going to choose executable, but just know you can also run these scripts as well. Also, please note here you'll see that we have a start if already running. If it's an executable, you have the option to select this, and what it will do is it will not run if they press the hotkey if the application is already running, to help prevent opening up the application multiple times. That does not work with scripts though, as with the script, there's no way to know if the script is already running. So you'll notice if you switch it to a script, that'll disappear. Please note when using the executable file path, you can use are the executable name, are the arguments. You can use what's called VDI session variables, or you can use environment variables, or you can use special folder variables. Please watch the video tutorial on those to get more information on that. We can also add arguments if we wanted. And I will go ahead and leave this to no for start if already running. And then we also have the option to use the local system account. Please note that can't work with GUI based applications. That's really meant for scripts or executables with no UI. So we'll go ahead and hit add. Afterwards, we can hit search, and we can see it's added our app automation item. So we can navigate now back to rules, rule items, hotkey, and we can go ahead and create one for our application. We'll go ahead and hit add. And we'll notice that it actually opened up the edit window for us. Whenever you choose the type hotkey action to run an application, it'll open up this edit window. And then from here, we can go to applications and we can choose any of the application items that we created earlier. So we'll go ahead and add Notepad. And once complete, we can then hit update. And I can go ahead and do a search, and I can see that that hotkey has been created. So now our hotkeys have been created. Now we need to actually create a rule and associate those hotkeys. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and navigate to rules, session rules, and then hotkey. And as we can see, we have no rules currently, so we'll go ahead and add one. Now for this, what we want to do is I'm going to go ahead and check global rule because we want this to apply to all sessions. If we were wanting to create a rule that would only apply to, let's say, a particular user, a client, or virtual desktop host name, or whatever, we would not check that. But we want this to apply to all. So we're going to go ahead and check it as a global rule and hit add. Once we hit add, it's going to open up the rule edit window, and from there we can go and assign it a configuration. So I'll go ahead and click on configuration, and then we'll see our hotkeys that are available to add to this rule. And I'm going to go ahead and add the F5 disconnect. Oh, nope, not F5 disconnect session. I'm going to add the F6 privacy screen, the F7 log off session, F8 disconnect session, and F9 notepad. So I got my keys added here. I can go ahead and hit update. So I'll go ahead and hit update. And afterwards I can do a search, and I can see that my rule for my hotkeys has been created. So now what we'll want to do is go ahead and test those hotkeys, and we can do that by actually logging into a virtual desktop session. So we can go ahead and minimize this, and we can go ahead and log into a virtual desktop session. Okay, and once logged into a virtual desktop session, we can go ahead and verify that those rules apply by navigating to the client in the sys tray and left clicking on it and going to rules. And once we open up rules, we can expand session modification rules. We can see we have one global hotkey rule applied. Expand that. If we highlight the mouse over the hotkey rule, we'll get details about the hotkey rule. And if we expand that, we will then see all our different hotkeys that we have established. And on the application, we can actually expand that one as well and see the application. And if we highlight the mouse over any of these items, it'll give us details about that, whether it be the hotkey, the application, or the rule. Okay, so let's go ahead and test these. So first what we'll want to do is we will want to test the privacy screen. So we'll go ahead and press F6. And we'll see we have a privacy screen. Go ahead and double click to resume. And we can go ahead and test, let's see. We can go ahead and test disconnecting the session. That's the F8 key. We'll go ahead and press F8, and we can see it disconnected our session. So let's go ahead and reconnect back to that session. Okay, we're reconnected back to that session. So now let's go ahead and test running of an application, which is F9 for Notepad. So we'll go ahead and press that. As we can see, Notepad opened, and we also had it set to not start again if it was already running. I'll go ahead and press the F9 key again, and we can see it doesn't reopen Notepad. If I close Notepad and press the F9 again, we can see Notepad has opened. Lastly, what we'll want to test is we'll want to go ahead and test the F7 logging off of the session. So we'll go ahead and press F7. And as we can see, it is signing us out and has logged the session off. So another thing is let's say we want to override one of those keys. So we'll go back to the management console. And if you'll remember, I created another hotkey for F5 to be the disconnect session. So we'll go ahead and create a new rule. We'll give it a name and a description. And with this one, we won't check global rule because we only want it to apply, let's say, to the user that I'm logging in as. So we'll go ahead and hit add. Once we hit add, it will open up the edit window, and we'll notice that now we have the option to add qualifiers. So instead of with a global rule, you can't add qualifiers because it applies to all sessions. So for more details on qualifiers and how those work and everything, please watch the video tutorial on rules. So we'll go ahead and add any qualifier, and we'll add a user, and we'll add the user that we've been logging in with, which is the VDI ToolKit user. We'll go to configuration, and we'll add the F5 disconnect session. And lastly, what we need to do, since we want this key to override the other, is we need to ensure that this rule has a higher weight than the other rule, which is the default rule. So the default rule has a weight of 0, so we'll go ahead and give this one a weight of 1. Once that's done, we can go ahead and hit update. And afterwards, we can go ahead and do a search and see that we have our specialized hotkey rule. So now what we want to do is log back into the virtual desktop session, and we will want to make sure that it's F5 key works and not F8 to disconnect the session. So we'll go ahead and minimize this, and we will log back into our virtual desktop. Okay, once logged in, we can go ahead and confirm. So we'll go ahead and navigate back to the client. We'll go to rules. We'll expand session modification rules. Rules, we'll expand session modification rules, and we'll see we have 2 hotkey rules now. We'll go ahead and expand that, and we can go ahead and expand our default global hotkey rule, and we'll notice that there's a red X by the F8 disconnect session, meaning it was not applied. And if we highlight our mouse over it, we'll see that it gives a reason, and the reason it was ignored was there was a global hotkey that already exists for that action, and that was from a higher weight rule. So we'll go ahead and expand this, and we can see our F5 disconnect session. So what we want to do right now is go ahead and test pressing the F8 key. So we'll go ahead and press the F8 key, and we'll notice that it is not disconnecting our session. So now what we'll want to do is we'll want to go ahead and press the F5 key, and we'll see that disconnected our session. I hope this tutorial has been useful, and thank you.